Good afternoon, ladies. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We're going to get started. So, my name is Janae Harden, and we are presenting Success Redefined. Yes. So, we have quite a few different things that we're going to do, we're going to talk about, and words that we use to describe us. So, Miss Maisha. Flip it up.
Sorry. So today we're going to be talking about success redefined. And sometimes you need to redefine success after failure. So I'm going to give you guys the definition of failure. And it says failure is a lack of success in doing or achieving something, especially in relation to a particular activity. Sometimes we attach failure to ourselves, like whether it's a failure as a mom, failure as a business owner, instead of looking, and we feel like that makes us a failure, instead of looking at it as that one thing didn't work out. So today we're going to encourage you to tell us who you are without telling us who you are. Because a lot of times the roles and the titles that we hold, we feel like they make us who we are. So we're going to start, we each came up with 3 words to tell you who we are without telling you who we are.
And y'all, this was hard because I'm very much used to, introducing myself as the author, as the therapist, as the mom. But when I had to come up with 3 different words that was none of that, it took me until about last night. So, so my 3 words that I chose for myself are, the first one is seeker, because I'm always learning, I'm always looking for something new, just something to enhance myself. I also chose dreamer, because I think as Black women, just women in general, we go through so many different things in life and we forget to dream. We forget to allow ourselves to dream. We just get bogged down by so many different things. So we have to be very intentional about, just dreaming and allowing ourselves to, see a better life and choose a better life. And the last word that I chose for myself is winner. And I think that's it. I'm a winner. I'm like Denzel Washington. I'm going to win. I am a winner. and that's something that I really believe, and I encourage everyone to, see themselves as that. We have to, in order for us to be big, we have to see ourselves as big.
My 3 words were, I am a learner. I am always trying to learn something new. I am determined. No matter what it looks like, I'm going to figure out a way to keep going. My last word is I'm light, because I believe that I was put here to lead the generation after me into what it is that they're supposed to be doing.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Mia. And I don't like this switch. I'm Mia. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I'm Mia, and my 3 words are intentional. I'm very much intentional about everything that I do. I do it from the heart, just very, very passionate, and not in like a calculated, like weird way, but just really, really focused on what I want the outcome to look like and what steps I need to take to get to that. My second word is stylish, because look at me. And my third word is impactful. In my 38 years of life, more so in more recent years, I would say, I really started to notice the impact that I have on people. It could be in the most casual social setting. It could be in my, my career business setting. But it really seems as though I really, leave an impression, and that my presence is rather strong. And so those are my 3 words. But, as my co-panelist said, society will place roles, titles. I'm a mom, I'm a business owner. We have these roles, we have these titles, but who am I?
So I came up with an acronym about what failure is, because a lot of times we attach that to us. So a failure is faith acting inconsistent, locking up resilient excellence. Because
Okay.
Mia told me to say it. She told me to say it again. It's faith acting inconsistent, locking up resilient excellence. So a lot of time when we fail at something, we're afraid to try something different, and it locks us up. And one of the things when we were talking about this, I kept getting in my spirit is don't let the world or something that didn't work out choke the word that God has put on the inside of you. Because when something doesn't go right, you don't have the courage to move on. But I want you to take the limits off of yourself today, because you're not a failure. The thing that you did, it just didn't work out. You've had plenty of successes in other areas of your life. So don't let failure keep you from moving forward. Don't let the labels that we put on ourselves from keeping us moving forward. When you strip those things off, it's freedom in it. Like when you say, I'm determined, I am light, I'm dreaming, you know what I mean? Those are the things that we are. We're not just moms, we're not just entrepreneurs, because when a business fails, you feel like I'm a failure, but you're not. So when you strip yourself of those things, it's freedom and really discovering who God has called you to be.
And when we were given this topic, and we were, talking about it and how best to describe it, we realized how social media plays such a big impact in this. And, social media obviously is something that, it's here to stay. We all deal with it, but we don't necessarily think of the ongoing ramifications of it. And sometimes, listening or seeing things that make us feel some type of way about ourselves.
When it comes to failure, for me, this really resonated with me, because when I just look back at my life, had a child at 16 years old, didn't finish college, failed relationships, unwed, moved back home with an 11-year-old child. So, that's failure, right? Maybe, maybe not. But it certainly, everything that I have been through has certainly equipped me with the tools. And it took a while to realize that I was being equipped and that these were tools. And, I have this whole toolbox. And I truly feel like, I've begun to use these tools that God has given me, recognizing that success is not linear. There have been many setbacks, challenges, barriers, and yet, just give it your all, be intentional about it, block out the distractions and stay focused. And then fast forward, many years later, I have she's somewhere around here, she's probably hiding. I have a third-year college student who's an honors student. I have a thriving career, a blossoming business that just entered its 6th year. Thank you. And I'm proud of myself, I really am. And that's what it is. Success is really what you make it. You redefine your own success. It's not about what society says is successful. It's really what makes you feel good on the inside. I like the person that I see when I look in the mirror. I'm proud of who she is. I'm proud of, what she's been through. It truly has prepared me for the present and the future. I'm certain of that. So you just block it out and you stay focused stay focused on yourself, and yeah.
To speak a little bit about social media, it's really just a highlight reel of somebody's life. You don't really know from the outside looking in what it took for that person to get to where they are. So I tell my kids this: a horse wears blinders for a reason, because he's running his own race. So at the end of the day, when you're searching for success, whatever that looks like to you, you know, it's you against you. So daily you're going to wrestle against yourself. So you have to tell, it's you and God against the former you, trying to get to the version that he called you to. So you have to make the commitment to partner with him and wrestle with the old you daily to get to where it is that he is trying to take you to be.
She said. To add to the social media, because that's a big one. Everybody has social media, right? Even if it's like, it might not necessarily be like Instagram, it could be TikTok, but social media is like literally a rabbit hole. It can be. And I'm grateful that I've never been the type to like be worried about what everybody else is doing. Like, I'm really comfortable in my own skin. Because if you're not careful, like, you can look at what appears to be someone else's life, to your point. You know, it could very well be a facade. But just know, like, everything that glitter ain't gold. You know, perception is not necessarily reality, and unfortunately, not many people are going to highlight the failures or the challenges and the trying times, trying situations, circumstances, or whatever. They're going to put the good stuff. But like, let's say, like, for like my age group, right? People I know personally and just social media friends, you see people getting married, you see, you know, them traveling the world, you see all of these things, and you have to like check yourself, because it's easy to maybe like, well, I'm not doing that, or when is it going to be my time? You know, but you really have to, back to what I was saying earlier, like, block out those distractions, and also know that what is for you will not pass you, you know?
And then if we think about generational, you know, we always hear generational, traumas, things that have carried on in our, lineage, but we need to talk more about generational healing and generational wellness. And these are conversations that we don't have as much. So, like, we really can adopt, or should adopt, the idea of, it ran in my family until it ran into me, and that's something that, we really have to be very intentional about, and also maybe even becoming comfortable with being the black sheep in your family or in your friend group, Like, we have to remember, we are trying to live a life that we may not have ever seen before. It's all new to us. The new you is new to you, so we're still figuring out this person, figuring out what she likes, what she doesn't like, but as we are learning new things and new theories and just, ideas about ourselves, we're also unlearning things as well. So, just the same that we are letting go of stuff, we're still rebuilding new things that, may not have existed in our past, generations and things, but that's good, because new healing can start with us.
So, does anybody want to stand up and give 3 words that you would use to describe yourself outside of your job title and, societal roles?
Tell us who you are.
You can scream out anything, just any word that you think describes you that has nothing to do with your title. Because these are things we have to become comfortable with, talking about and saying, we are more than our titles. We're more than being a mom. We are so successful, and those are the things that we should be highlighting, just as much as we're highlighting, the bad things, or even talking about those, or even feeling shame about those. We have to find words that also really speak to the person we're growing into. Loving, kind, and joyous. I love that. Yep, beautiful.
Anyone else?
What was the last one?
What was it?
Believer.
Love
Curious,
that, love
traveler,
that.
and believer. I'm a traveler too.
I'm an aspiring traveler. Yes.
Giver,
And she's my
supporter, and
mama,
world
but that's
traveler.
that's a title, it's a role.
Creative, empathetic, and daughter of God. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, anyone else?
Anyone else?
Creative, blessed, and powerful. Beautiful, yes.
Anybody else? Yes. And even if you didn't share, amongst the group, just think about it, right? Like that's your homework. That's one of your takeaways from today. I know there were many. This has been an awesome morning and afternoon thus far, but like really just think about it. And again, life is life and for everybody, right? That's just never going to change. We're always going to face different challenges, and sometimes we get down on ourselves. So like thinking back to what the lady shared about forgiveness, but just recognizing like these stumbling blocks and things like that just comes with life. But just committing to trying, really committing to trying is a huge thing when it comes to success. It truly is. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
What did she say?
She said the slides are up.
Oh, no, that kind of went already.
Right.
Yes. Sorry, you guys. We were having some AV issues, so this kind of went off the cuff. But I do think that we covered, I think we've covered everything. Okay.
So for those of you that didn't stand up, like we said, we charge you to think about who you are without telling us who you are. Because don't let the titles define you into what success is. You know what I mean? Because success looks different to everybody. So I want to leave you again with the acronym, because I really feel like it's something that you can take to heart. It's faith, acting, inconsistent, locking up, resilient excellence. So the next time that failure gets in your head or fear tries to lock you up from doing something, think about that. You know what I mean? Just don't let the enemy, the world, choke the word that God has put on the inside of you. You define your own success. You're responsible for your own happiness. So I just hope that that's something that you guys meditate, over these next couple of days.
And just to piggyback off of what they were saying, for myself, I went through a divorce a couple of years ago, and what I was hearing from everyone was, well, what are you going to do now, and how's life going to be? And, I had those same questions for myself, but again, I also had just an innate belief in myself that I was going to figure it out. And, everyone always made it sound like, life just ends after a divorce. But, I don't understand that, because I feel like I've been winning since I left him. So I don't understand, But, we have to look at ourselves almost as like a cup. It's like a regular cup, right? And we are constantly filling up our cup. And nobody gets what's inside of your cup except for you. Everybody else gets what overflows. Okay? And so if we kind of, really hold true to that and just understand that what's inside of my cup is for me and no one else, it'll just benefit the world around you anyway. So these are choices that we have to make every single day. We have to be very intentional about having these conversations with ourselves, intentional about, again, redefining what success looks like for you and only for you. My success isn't going to look like Maisha's or Mia's, and neither is theirs, but we can still come together and say, despite all of these different things that happen to us, I'm still out here winning. I'm still out here doing me and looking good doing it, Right? Yeah, like this is a moment for all three of us. This is a big thing for all of us, for the three of us to be up here talking about this when it really rings true for us, and we are, I think, just the products of our family's prayers and everyone supporting and loving what we do. And as a result of it, our cup continues to be filled. So yeah, I would charge everyone to come up with their 3 words and figure out, how you can continue to describe yourself without using your titles, but also knowing that your words may change as well. what word I chose, today, tomorrow, it might be something totally different. And that's okay too, because that speaks to my growth.
Yeah, I have something. No, because it was something that Janae said that just kind of like resonated with me, and I don't think that I shared. And in my intro, it was said that I was an overcomer. So I've shared that I was a teen mom and all of that, and just pressure. I like to believe. No, I am. Today, I'm a diamond, right? But all of the pressure from 16 years old. That being, this pregnancy was like world stop, and the pressure of just not becoming a stereotypical teen mom. I was just really, really hard on myself about, I need to do this, just check off all these boxes. What do my parents expect of me? What does the world expect of me? Really, make my daughter proud. And I literally, like, the pressures of all of that and the way that I was moving, and honestly not relying on the support system that was there for me, I made myself sick. Like, body shut down, girl, stop, And so that's what I mean, like, when I say, today, when I look in the mirror, like, I'm so proud, because there was a time where I was very broken, So, yes. But thank you. But yeah, just, define your own success. Life is a marathon. It is not a sprint. That's something I've learned, to slow down and take it a day at a time. And what you don't achieve today, save for tomorrow. And just adapting that mindset has been working, and here I am.
And that's interesting too, because society wants us to believe that, it is a sprint. Like, everything has to happen at rapid speed. You have to heal real quick. You have to, graduate and do all the things, but everything is supposed to happen according to society very quickly. But we all know, life happens the way it happens. And sometimes, things you were allegedly supposed to do, at a younger age, we end up doing them later, So that's another thing too. Redefine your own timelines. Everyone always gives you this pre-populated timeline, but that literally doesn't work for us. Like, I hate when people ask seniors, going in what's your major? What are you going to do? Right? They don't know, but they have to give us this answer, and they have to, seem confident about it when they really don't. So giving people the option to ongoingly, redefine their success, redefine their timeline. Like, these are all things that we have to, again, just make sure we're very intentional about, because society is literally working against us. Capitalism is working against us, and it wants us to believe something totally different. But, it's up to us to really kind of just stay in your own lane, and my lane is good, right? Maisha's lane is good. And this is what it looks like when you allow yourself to just exist as you are.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes. You want the mic?
So ladies are doing a beautiful job. So we're talking about success redefined, and you talked about letting people down, letting others down. So I want to talk about, how do you navigate when you set a goal or an expectation for yourself and you did not meet that, and you let yourself down? We talked about all the external forces, but the internal ones, when you are like, oh man, Cassandra, you procrastinated. You let the imposter syndrome take over and cloud your vision. So how do you navigate that?
So for me, I feel like I'm coming out of a season of that, learning how to fight, like really learning how to speak things to myself, to uplift myself, like letting myself, and I tell this story. A year ago, we were at your church, and Lady V preached from, I don't remember the book, but I know that the lady was in retreat mode. Like, she just didn't want to be bothered. And that's where I was. Like, a venture that I did had really like failed big time, and that was supposed to be my next. And part of it was like, at this big age, you know what I mean? I don't want to have to figure out what's next, because that was my next. So it was like, God, what's up? So I kind of just didn't have a spirit of expectation. Like, if I don't expect anything, then I won't have to be let down. And when she preached that day, I was just sitting there like, and the word is like, you have to fight. Like, no matter what comes along, you have to stay in the fight. And sometimes that fight looks like going to see a therapist. Sometimes that fight looks like writing in a journal. Sometimes that fight looks like going on a walk. But I have this thing that I do with my girls' organization. You make yourself a positive jar, and you put positive sayings and words in it. And those days where you're at a low, you pick from your jar. So those are the things that I, do to lift myself back up. And us having the conversations that we've had over the last couple weeks, like, that didn't define me. Yeah, it didn't work out, it didn't fail, but I'm not a failure. You know what I mean? So I've picked myself, and it's constantly picking yourself up. Like, life is going to throw you down, but just having the tools in your toolbox to pull from. And whatever that tool looks like for that day, you have to have tools that you pull from to use to pick yourself up. So that could be getting in community with people. We were not meant to walk this walk alone. Like journaling, hiking, whatever it is you need to do to take those. They talked earlier about taking hold of your thoughts and things like that. You have to constantly remind yourself who you are and line it up with who God says you are. I don't care what the enemy says. I don't care what you tell yourself. Open up your Bible and he's going to tell you who you are. And that's how you know where it is that you're going and who it is that you're supposed to be. I don't know if
I'm in just constant conversation with myself. I'm that crazy lady that's like always talking to herself. Sometimes it's out loud, but it's a conversation. But I've really tried to focus on the language that I use with myself. So I try not to see things so much as failures as just opportunities to learn, opportunities to, figure out what went wrong. I am doing on the ground market research about myself, and yeah, I'm figuring it out. So as I continue on my journey, there's going to be other missteps. There's going to be other things that I'm still trying to figure out, but it's all leading me to my why. And for me, my why will always just be, I want to live a life of ease. Whatever that looks like for me. And that's always my why. And I always just try to remind myself to get back to that. Like, am I doing too much? Am I doing things that are taking me away from my why? There's a lot of different opportunities and I think, business things that sometimes we even have to say no to because it takes us too far away from our why. And I think there is also some sadness in that, like, oh, like I got to turn some things down and, this is great and, this might be a good opportunity, but, there's also so many other things that require your time and attention that are going to lead you to your why. So, figuring out your why is something that, can kind of help your goals and help you just give you that stamina to just kind of keep going. Like I can do certain things, but, certain things ain't for me, and that's okay.
Prayer. Prayer is a big one. And, as I'm praying, one of my main prayers is like, God, please prepare me for what I am praying for, because you can ask all day, but am I really truly prepared? And when mishaps happen or things don't, look like what I pictured it would look like, I'm doing better. It's like a work in progress, of course. I think everyone can attest to that, but not to be hard on myself. I caught myself the other day saying something, and I was like, stop. Like, those intrusive thoughts, like, cut it out. I was getting ready to be super negative about something because it was starting off a little crappy, and I'm like, girl, get it together, So I do a lot of girl, get it together moments. I'm big on affirmations. I actually have on my mantra band bracelets. I have an arm full of them, pretty much. But big on affirmations, again, prayer. Technically, I have an anxiety disorder, but I try not to let that, define me, right? Talking about definitions and titles and things like that. So, but recognizing when things are brewing, right? Or what might trigger that, breathing through it. And, sometimes things just aren't meant to be, and just being okay with that. Just being okay with that. You have to be, Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Do you want the mic also, or? Well, I'm no therapist, I'm no professional, but when I said earlier, life is life, and that was pretty much what I meant. I mean, it's about 3 people on hospice right now in my life, it's constantly something. It is constantly something. And for me personally, just from a, Calmia standpoint, again, let's put the disclaimer out there, staying prayed up. We know we're not supposed to question God. I'm very, very intentional about that, not questioning him, because even at the times where I felt like the avalanche, that all the rocks had fallen on top of me and I was buried, I'm here, right? Like I came out of it. Somehow I pulled myself out of it. And so, you kind of look to that and hold on to hope and faith and all of those things. That's just something that I personally do, because it'd be a lot. It'd be a lot. Every time you turn around, it's something from all angles. Last week, or top of this week particularly, I was like, what the heck is going on? I'm a target practice. I'm a punching bag. Like, what is happening? I got to do this conference this weekend. Like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? On top of all of these, medical circumstances with people and deaths and just all the things, But I feel like faith and hope and prayer, that's really all that you can do. You know what I mean? And just taking it a day at a time.
And then also, what I like to do is, when we're talking about imposter syndrome, I like to give imposter syndrome a name. Like, really give it any name you want. When it starts to ramp up, like, all right, people, keep quiet, whatever you want to call them, But yeah, but seriously, almost like you're talking to someone, right? And that person is talking to you, and don't let that person talk to you like that. You know what I mean? Like, we tell ourselves so many things that it's not even true. The things that we tell ourselves, it don't even be true. And we have to ask ourselves, like, where did that thought process come from? Like, who taught me that, and why do I believe it? So when it comes to, like, bad things happening and the avalanche and ongoing and all of that, you are equipping yourself to, get through certain things, but also keeping in mind that we not doing strong Black woman syndrome either. You know what I mean? That's one thing we're letting go of as well. So, keeping in mind with your life of ease, or whatever your why is, what is it that I want to achieve? What is it that I'm learning? What is it that I'm unlearning from these situations? And we also sometimes, or I look at myself almost like Thanos, the guy with the things. And he's got the rings, right? And these are our rings, right? These are our resources, right? What are your resources that you have? And one of the resources that women have is intuition, and that's something that we also can just lean on a little bit more. So, like, what's your gut saying? What's your stomach saying about this situation or about this job? Like, every relationship or every job that I've left, it's been a gut feeling. And it's been something that I didn't listen to the first go around until, the second or third time it busts me upside the head, and then it's like, oh, okay, all right, something's here for me, but just keeping in mind that, you're still moving forward, and you're still letting go of certain things and rebuilding yourself in a different way.
I'm no therapist, so I'm going to speak from when the avalanche comes. Sometimes I feel like just feel the feels. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to sit and just feel the feels. And you don't sit in it for too long, but feel it. I think a lot of times, like she said, the strong woman syndrome is like, we got to keep going, we got to keep pushing. Sometimes you just have to feel the feels. Give yourself some time, pick yourself back up, you know what I mean? Give yourself some grace. And I always say grief and happiness, grief and joy, because happiness is fleeting. Grief and happiness can sit in the same seat. You know what I mean? So you can be going through something and still choose to move on and still choose to live life. Like they can sit in the same seat and you are allowed to feel the feels.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thoughts? Comments? Beefs? Daily affirmations?
Just keep swimming is one of them. Because again, some days you feel like you're drowning, but you have got to keep swimming. I don't know if it's so much an affirmation so much, but I lost my father a few years ago. He was a Marine, and their slogan is Semper Fi, which means always faithful, always loyal. And, that kind of like ties into what I was saying about like my intentionality. Like I'm very, dedicated to the things I do. And so, sometimes when I'm like really struggling, Semper Fi is something that I say to myself. Yeah, I'd say those are probably, just keep swimming more often than not.
There's actually a really good affirmation app that I like. I don't know if anybody uses it, but it's called I Am. Okay. Yeah, it's a really good app, and they just like periodically, every couple of hours, send an affirmation to your phone, and they're really on time sometimes. You could really be just having a moment, and then, your phone will light up, and it'll be like, I am spectacular, and I get through hard things. And it's like, you know what, I do, and so, yeah, the app is a good one, but also anything with, I am. I start with, I am capable, I can do this, I am unstoppable, I am a winner. Anything just with that, those first two for me always works.
Mine's change daily, but they all start with usually I am. What I like to do is voice record myself on my phone, and when I'm having those days, I play it back to myself. So like I'll just be talking, saying the affirmation, so it's like I'm worthy, you know what I mean? I'm loved, you know what I mean? I'm resilient. And sometimes, I don't know, sometimes you can't find the words, or you might be having a day and it won't come out. So I play back what I tell myself on my phone. So I can hear it in my voice. That gives me a little bit more like,
I just want to say, because I think unless there was any other questions, let me go on the stage. I just want to say I am so proud of these ladies right here. For Janae, Maisha, Calmia, you better call her Calmia Hart. I'm so proud of them because we talked about being chosen in an earlier conversation, Sweet. You ladies were chosen for this moment, on this day, for this topic, to speak to these women, for them to hear your words, to see your face, to see your likeness and experience you. And you did a job today. I am so proud of you. And I'm so, they are chosen, but they actually had to choose to show up. And I'm so glad that you chose to show up. You came from behind the curtain, and it looks good on y'all. Yes. And you hear it talk on the main stage. Yes, on the main stage. And I'm just so blessed to have a platform. So voices like Calmia, Maisha, Janae can be amplified. That is the whole point of the Hey Girl Conference. So ladies, keep sharing your voice. It is enough. It is powerful. It is healing. It has intuition. It has street smarts. It's sassy. It's stylish. It is all the things. So keep sharing your voice. I just wanted to say that. Thank you, ladies. Let's give it up for Kalmia, Maisha, and Janae. Give it up for them.